What's up, guys? It's your boy Curly Fries, and what the heck is going on with Plants vs Zombies 3? I know, I said the title of the video. So this video is actually supposed to be like very different. Originally, I was going to just replay Plants vs Zombies 2 because I got this itch to just play it after a while. I was gonna make it just be me talking about my opinion, and I finished the entire video, but then I lost all the footage for it, and I didn't back it up anywhere. So I cried myself to sleep that night. And then I remembered while I was like doing research for that video, I stumbled across Plants vs Zombies 3, which I knew was a thing already. I had just forgotten about it. So I decided to download it, and once I did, I opened it and nothing happened. It was a blank screen, it was just black. I thought maybe it was just my internet was really slow. So I tried like 3 times, and I sat there for like 5 minutes each, and I was like, you know what, let me just see if it's a problem with my internet. I opened up Plants vs Zombies 2, it loaded basically immediately, so I was really confused. I went to the internet, to see why it wasn't working. Turns out the servers have been shut down for the past 5 months, and I'm just a little late. But I was really confused. I was like, I thought this game had fully come out already. I thought I saw people talking about it like a year ago or whatever. So I thought, why don't I just make a video explaining everything that's happened so far with Plants vs Zombies 3? And then I realized there's not really that much to sum up, so I said, hold on, let's split it into 3 parts. So this first part is going to be me explaining what's going to be happening. The second part is me giving my opinion on the game and on the certain problems that the game has. And then the third part is just me talking about what plants I'd like to see in the future. I was thinking about doing zombies, but I was like, nah, that'd take way too long. And the video was already, the script was already getting very long, so I was like, I'll save the zombies for another day or something. But anyway, I'll put timestamps at the bottom, so like if you want to see just the explanation, or if you just want to skip ahead to the opinion, or if you don't care about my opinion or the explanation, and you just want to see what my favorite plants are, you can go check the bottom, but maybe stay around for the whole thing, because I work really hard on my videos. Alright, anyway, let's get into the video. So if this sounds a little bit boring, that's because I'm just reading directly off of my script of all the information. I sourced it from multiple different places, and by that I mean Wikipedia. So the first alpha test for PVZ3 was in July of 2019, which was 6 years ago? No, 5. 6 in July. I mean, it's basically 6. But then the game was soft launched in February of 2020. I can't think of why people weren't really talking about the game, It's not like we were preoccupied with something or people were freaking out over something. Then the game was re-released in April of 2022, and then a soft launch in October of that year. Then on January 17th of 2014, the game was kind of announced to be launching. It was a mix between a full release and a soft launch, because it was available in certain countries like the UK and Australia, but it wasn't available in places like the USA or Canada. They said they were slowly going to make it more and more available in different regions, but then in just November of that year, 5 months ago, they announced that the game was just straight up shutting down for a massive overhaul that they were going to be doing. So this might seem pretty crazy because you might have literally never heard of this game, because this game has 0 marketing. Even whenever I go on YouTube and I look up videos about PVZ3, the only ones I can find are stuff from 5 years ago in 2019 or stuff from 7 months ago. Nobody's talking about this game, probably because, it's shut down. But the reason it's been taken down and re-released so much is for a couple of reasons. So I think one of the main problems that people had is just we don't really need it. A lot of people argue we already have PVZ2, and PVZ2 is doing very well. Bunch of new plant releases. There's literally new plants coming in a couple weeks. There's arena mode, the story's good, the designs are good. What's the point of making a PVZ3? Other people are saying it's because of a lot of the original whenever it was first released in 2019, it looked very different than what it looked like back in 2024. And one of the big problems that a lot of people had was that the game was now vertical on your phone and not horizontal. A lot of people were like, why would you do that? The entire point, Plants vs Zombies 2, the lawn goes horizontal. Why are you making it vertical? I think they just did that to try and fit in and be hip. But they changed that. And then another big problem people had was the original art style. It was this weird almost 3D. It was more like 2.5D. Like, it was still flat, but like you could kind of see the top of their heads, and they weren't like looking like straight. They were kind of, it was weird. And then they switched that. So they've fixed a lot of problems, but there are still more. But yeah, they took the game down back in November for a massive overhaul. So we're gonna see how that goes. My guess is that the game won't come out for like at least 1 year, because of one of the parts of this massive overhaul is the art style, which I will get into in my opinion. Okay, so if you made it here, that means you watched the entire, first half of my video where I just explained how it's working, or you skipped here. Which if you did, hi, sit down. Why'd you skip? Why don't you just go back and watch that, I worked really hard on it. You're kind of, you just skipping through the video kind of makes me sad. Anyway, let's just hop into my own personal opinion on the entire game. If I was to sum up my entire opinion on this game in one sentence, I don't think it's gonna be that bad. The community, I feel like, is making it seem like this game is gonna be this horrible thing that everybody's not gonna like. But you have to remember, PVZ3 when it first came out wasn't that good. Like, just go back, you know what you should do? Go back and watch some of Zach Scott's like first videos in his like 1,000, I don't even know what episode is he on, like 1,200 something. If you go back to the originals, the game was very different, to the point where it was an open world, branching paths for the levels. It wasn't linear, you could go to any single world, and there were a lot of problems, and eventually they fixed a lot of these problems. Like, one of them was originally you could like spend coins to unlock worlds faster, or like spend money to get the coins to unlock it, or you could just, nowadays all the levels are free, you just have to play the game. A lot of issues got fixed with time. I don't know. I mean, now I feel like EA has a better grip over PVZ, because back then I'm pretty sure they still owned the company. But you look at other examples of like the new age Plants vs Zombies games, like Battle for Neighborville, and you're kind of just like, I don't know, but I don't think it's gonna be that bad. And one of the main issues earlier that I was talking about was the art style, which they've already addressed it. In a poll I think they did in January of this year, they said, here are like 3 images of, there's like image one, which is like this more like children, like paint, pastel watercolor looking style. The second one is the current art style they're using. And then the third one is this more like comic art style. With that, it's a poll for people to be like, hey, which one would you guys prefer? Because they knew that the art style was a huge issue that a lot of people had with the game. So personally, I like the current art style that the game has. I mean, like, look at the lightning read, like, he looks so cute. But I do like the comic style more, and I think it would fit more, especially because a lot of, like, I think they forget that, like, a lot of their current hardcore fans that would move to that game if it's good don't like that art style. They like the more, like one of the things I heard a lot of people saying was that the zombies don't even look like the zombies anymore. It looks like a random, like, knockoff of the game, which I understand because they did a massive overhaul to the redesign. So now they're going to do a massive overhaul to the entire game, and I think it's going to turn out pretty well. I just hope that they, like, fully launch it and stop doing this random soft launch re-release thing and just let people play the game, honestly. I think that's another problem. Like, they keep, doing these beta tests, and I feel like people, like, it's been almost 6 years since this game's first beta test. When are we going to get our hands on this game? That was my opinion on the game. So now I'm just going to get into some of the plans that I personally want to see in the game in the future. I broke it up into 2 sections. There's going to be the PVZ1 plants and the PVZ2 plants. As you can probably guess, the PVZ2 plant list is way longer than the PVZ1 plant list, because a lot of the PVZ1 plants are already going to just make it into the game. I'd be shocked if most of them didn't. But anyway, let's jump into that. I really gotta go take a pee break. I'll be right back.
One eternity later.
Back from the pee break. Gotta stay hydrated, especially when you're yapping like I am. My mouth gets really wet, my throat gets dry, so you gotta stay hydrated. Okay. Ugh, excuse me. Let's get in these plants. Alright, let's do the PVZ1 plants. Starting off, I think all the PVZ1 plants were very good, and they're probably going to all make it into the game. But here are just some of like the standouts or like my personal favorites that I'm like, I really want them in the game. You know, first, we got the repeater and the three-peater. I mean, they're classics. If they're not in the game, I'll be very surprised, especially with the repeater. I could see them maybe not having the three-peater because it's not as popular of an option, but I still think the repeater is probably guaranteed spot. Same thing with the three-peater. Gatling Pea. So they probably would just make it its own plant, but I could see them maybe bringing back the upgrade system from the first game. We got the melon boys. I love the melons, specifically winter melon, one of my favorite plants. One of the best plants, PVZ2 actually. I know I'm gonna say, at least in this video, this section, I'm gonna say this plant is one of my favorite plants at least like 5 times probably. I'll put like whatever the actual number is here, or actually, you know, I'll put a little tracker up at the top of like favorite plants. We got the fume shroom. I don't really know why I like the fume shroom so much. I think I just, as a kid, I always like remembered, I thought like you had to click on it to make it blow. Eventually I discovered after one level, no you don't, they can actually just do that on their own. We got the Spike Bros, love those guys. You know, shout out, you know, I love Spike Rock, love Spike Weed. They're just good plants. They're for sure gonna be in it. I think Spike Weed's already in it. I'm not sure, I think so. Then we got the other iconic duo, we got the Ice and Doom Shroom, love those guys. You know, shout out. But now let's just move on to the PVZ2 plants because this list is very long. I'm really quickly just gonna put them all on the screen so you can kind of see what I'm working with. It's a lot of plants. That probably took me like 5 minutes to write all that out. I probably have carpal tunnel. Can you get carpal tunnel from typing? Leave that in the comments. Can you get carpal tunnel? I could look it up, but I'm not. With these PVZ2 plants, I'm probably gonna do sort of rapid fire because it's a lot and I wanna get through it and I don't want you sitting here getting bored. So we're gonna Mr. Beast edit this. I'm kidding, I can't edit like Mr. Beast. But anyway, let's go. Bloomerang, love that guy, absolute classic. You know, he was the first plant you unlock at PVZ2. That's a new plant, love that guy. Bong Choy, one of my favorite plants, especially as a kid, loved that guy. Snapdragon and Cold Snapdragon. Snapdragon, like the fire one, was originally in PVZ3, like the really bad version that people didn't like. And it hasn't been confirmed if it's in the new version, but it probably will be. You know, and I just want the Cold Snapdragon there because he's cool. Coconut Cannon, give my boy some redemption. There's no real use of using him except for like that one mini game, which was pretty fun when you unlock him. Laser Beam, I think he's just going to be a new mainstay in the series. Citron, another example of like a plant that's probably a mainstay, especially after it being in Garden Warfare. So this one's a redemption story. Guacodile, I love his design. It makes me sad that he's not good. And I think they just maybe like buff his fire rate or maybe like even like switch the way he works, and instead of having him like be like a bad, you know how he like, I can't speak. This is supposed to be rapid fire. You know how he's basically just a lawnmower, that's the word. Maybe find a way to change that, maybe make him just better, make him better at something, make him do something. Lava Guava, he's chill. I don't know why, but I wrote cool design for an instand. I don't know what an instand is. Celery Stalker, other than the fact that Stalker is in its name, it's a pretty cool plant. I think they just need to figure out a way to make it like, it's so annoying whenever you have it, but then there's a huge horde of zombies. So then once one zombie passes it, it goes, oh snap, goes up and then tries to like, you know, jab at it. But then all of the other zombies just eat it and then now you don't have your Celery Stalker. Spore Shroom, it's just satisfying to have a bunch of Spore Shrooms and then watch them like just spawn more and more and just like infect the lawn. Then I just wrote the primal plants. I think I just like the primal plants, but it probably will not be in PVZ3. I said it right like twice, I don't know why. So I wrote down the primal plants. That's kind of just like, I really like the primal plants. I doubt they would come back for PVZ3 because it only works in PVZ2 because of the time travel mechanic. I don't think they'd have primal pea shooter come back. Wasabi Whip, he just looks cool and I like his design. And I think he would actually work in that new art style that they have, even if they do the comic one. I think he's just a cool design plant. Kiwi Beast, just one of my first gemiums, I forgot how you say it. The first gemium I got whenever I was replaying. I really like him. He's pretty chill. Parsnip, one of my favorite plants when I was a kid. I never had him, but I remember being like, man, if I could, I'd get him. Some of the pea shooters, because there are so many of them that I don't think we need a whole other class. The appeasement class, I don't think we need that. Let's like have a couple of them. Like you can bring back the ice pea shooters are there. You can bring the fire pea shooter. You could bring back like the goo pea shooter, or you could bring back the electric pea shooter, but don't bring out like every single one, like the pea pod or like the snap pea. Like we can chill out with all the pea shooters. I also put down the mints. I doubt they come back because I feel like that's like up there with the primal plants where it's like, it would be cool if they came back, but probably not. I put turkey poult. It's just like such a stupid design for a plant that I love it that it makes a little turkey. Head butter lettuce. I just think he's cool. He's right now, whenever I'm filming this in PVZ2, you can like unlock him through like the arena. So I don't know. I just like head butter lettuce. Rhubarb varian, cool. He's cool. I think you might notice this about me. I really like the plants, like the melee plants, or like the plants that just like look cool. I like melee plants. You know, Tomb Tangler, should bring him back now. Don't bring him back, I'm just kidding. Tomb Tangler can leave. Bamboo Spartan, I'm like, he's kind of cool, but like, they probably wouldn't because there's that new bamboo cannon in PVZ3, which I really like. Nightcap, probably another new mainstay of the series, up there with like Laser Bean and stuff. Because it was in, you know, it was in Battle for Neighborville, and then, you know, it was added to PVZ2. I put Dragon Brute. I think I like the idea, but like he does not fit the game aesthetics. Like he doesn't look like a plant in Plants vs Zombies 2, so they might have to redesign him to make him look better in PVZ3. Pokra, obviously, you know, maybe make it a more like fair plant. You know, like I said earlier, I was gonna do the zombies, but I was like, this video is probably gonna get way too long. I'm gonna just leave it at this. But anyway, if you made it this far in the video, my guess is that you liked it. So you could like help me out by, you know, liking the video or subscribing. Or if you don't want to do any of that, what you can really do to help me is go check out my last video where I made it almost like a Sunny V2 style video talking about where the top 10 Viners went. I might make another video like that. I kind of just make videos about whatever I find interesting, you know, and where the top 10 Viners were, that was just something I found interesting. I was like, where did they go? So you can go check that out. Anyway, see you later.